Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome back. Today, I would like to talk about the Age of Modernism, which is the period of the two wars between 1901 and 1945. So, let's talk about the first decade of the 20th century. So, the first decade was a period characterized by political, social, and cultural ferment. Um, Particularly remarkable was the struggle of women to obtain the right to vote. As we can all remember, the suffragettes. And their struggle ends in 1918 when women over 30 could vote, and especially in 1928 when women over 21 obtained a vote too. Then in 1908, we have the Old Age Pension Act, which is a social reform which granted pensions to people over 70 years old. And of course, we have in 1911 the National Insurance Act, which made free medical treatment available to insured workers. And of course, we have the growth of the Labour Party. During the first decades of the century, the Liberals were in fact split between reformist element who wished to integrate the demands of the working classes, laying some of the foundation for the welfare state, and a more conservative element who refused, for example, to nominate working class candidates for member of parliament. And it was during this period that the Labour Party grew into a separate party representing working class interests and became strongly allied with trade union movements. Okay, let's move on. Then we have the period before the war. So between 1910 and 1936, 1936, this was the reign of King George V. So during this period, there has been a growth of population, the widespread of industrialization, falling of the prices, and extension of transports. All these elements keep on characterizing British society. Then, of course, we have in 1912 the Irish question, which means the rivalry between Catholics of the Republic of Ireland and Protestants from Northern Ireland. This feud, this problem, this question in Ireland led in 1916 to the rebellion of the Republicans, which was quickly crushed, but still significant. And of course, the British Empire was still in expansion. But then we have to move on and start talking about First World War. So in the 1914, with the assassination of the Austrian Archduke Franz Ferdinand in Sarajevo, the war starts, the war began. On one side, we have France, Russia, and Britain, who joined Serbia in the war against Germany and Austria. Italy joined Britain and the others allied in 1915, and US joined them too in 1918. The only problem in this war was not the only one, but one of the problems was in 1917 when Russia withdrew from the war because of the Bolshevik Revolution led by Lenin, which brought to the abdication of the Tsar Nicholas II. The First World War ended in 1919 with the Treaty of Versailles and the victory, of course, of the allies of France, Britain, Serbia, and Italy. So and Germany and Austria in these in the Treaty of Versailles um, had to agree to stop building the military machine again and never build them again. The moments after the First World War were moments of of economic depression, with some devaluation of currency because of the end of war industry, heavy taxation, competition of new industrialized countries such as US. But there were also new inventions. And especially it was a moment of anti-war feelings. The horrors of the war and the social problems led to a general feeling that life was short and should be enjoyed. And this brought to a new sensational and shocking lifestyle that is now known as the Roaring Twenties. Of course, we also have other problems during these Roaring Twenties, especially between 1919 and 1921, with the Civil War for Irish independence, which was gained by the Republic of Ireland in 1921, and of course the biggest transformation was in 1926 with the transformation of the British Empire, with the independence of Britain's Dominion, which stayed as a allied and became part of the Commonwealth of Nations in 1931. The period between 1929 and 1939 was the interwar years period. And apart from the Roaring Twenties, these years had been dark and ominous. In 1929, the US stock market crashed, and this caused a worldwide depression. And of course, in this moment of worldwide depression and a struggle with the problem of economy and everything, this was the perfect moment for the rise of totalitarian regimes, such as the Nazis, and especially the Nazi Party in 1930, which was led by Hitler, who slowly began to take back the territories that Germany had lost due to the Treaty of Versailles. Of course, there was also the Spanish Civil War between 1936 and 1939, where Hitler and Mussolini didn't hesitate to give their support to Francisco Franco totalitarian regime. And all these problems, all these things led to the Second World War. So in 1939, Germany invaded Czechoslovakia and Poland, and so on the 3rd of September of 1939, France and Britain declared war to Germany. In the 1940, Italy enters war, but on Hitler's side, on the side of Germany. And this was one of the darkest periods of Europe, especially because of Hitler's personal plan to dominate Europe, which was called the Holocaust, and it was the extermination of the Jews in Europe. Of course, not just the Jews, but also gypsies, homosexuals, and all the other which were called undesirable elements. And all these people were deported and to concentration camps. and they had to work, and they were massacred. In these periods, Winston Churchill, Britain's Prime Minister, managed to keep Britain's spirit a little bit up. And finally, in the 1940, in the Battle of Britain, England had its first victory over Germany. Then, after this battle, Germany and Hitler and Germany began to had some defeats. So, for example, in 1941, Hitler dissolved this pact with Russia and invaded the Eastern Front, but he was defeated. And when in December 1941, Japan, who was an ally of Germany, attacked Pearl Harbor, and the Pearl Harbor, U.S. entered war to support UK. In 1943, the Allies invaded Italy, and on the D-Day in 1944, the Allies began an attack from the West Front, while the Soviet forces advanced from the Eastern Front. In this way, Germany was in the middle, and she was stuck. It was stuck in the middle. And in April 1945, we had the capture and execution of Mussolini in Italy, and finally the war in Europe ended in May 1945. Although 3 months later, the Americans dropped the atomic bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, this final act ended the Second World War for good, but also caused the beginning of the Cold War, the Cold War between US and Russia. Okay, here we have some ideas and let's say philosophical ideas of the modern age. We can say that the first half of the 20th century was dominated by general questioning of all past values and beliefs, especially after the experience of the First World War. So we have some of the most important sets of ideas which affected the first half of the 20th century, and they were developed by some very important and famous men. First of all was Friedrich Wilhelm Nietzsche, who wrote critical texts on religion, morality, contemporary culture, philosophy, and science. He questioned the objectivity of truth, and he conceptualized a primordial will to power which dominates every human being, and discussed the role of the Superman. And of course, he announced that God was dead, to refer to the loss of morality and the end of the belief in a cosmic force ordering the universe. Then we have Sigmund Freud, who elaborated a complex theory of mental processes that he called psychoanalysis, and emphasized the importance of the unconscious mind and the role played by childhood experiences and sex in the development of an adult personality and behavior. Then, of course, we have Carl Gustav Jung, which affirmed that the unconscious revealed itself through symbols, and that the psyche could be understood through the exploration of dreams, mythology, religion, and philosophy. And then, of course, we have Albert Einstein and his theory of relativity, and in the end, Henri Bergson with his time as a duration and endlessly flowing process in which past, present, and future overlap. Okay guys, this was the end. I hope everything was clear, and if you have any question, don't hesitate and put a comment below. Thank you very much. Bye.